Hello, I'm PJ Bishop. Welcome to my channel. I know it seems like deja vu, as every time this is fired up, it's opening day. And that's because it is opening day quite often. That's mainly on me not being able to decide what I want to do or how to go about it. But this is it. I figured out what I want, and this is what I want. I keep gravitating towards Miami, and I also am gravitating, simulating the first entire season completely. AI run. I don't control any team. That's what I did. I fired up the game, set up the settings. If you want more details about settings and what I did, feel free to ask. And I just went through, took no job, and just simmed the entire first season because I did want an entire off season to create a team that I think is capable of competing. Doesn't mean I'm going to make the playoffs. Doesn't mean I'm going to be competing for a division. But I think I've done a good job of building a competitive team with what I had. You know, Miami's a small market team, so developing is more important. Drafting, scouting, and developing well is more important than going out there and giving out $20 million plus dollar contracts. Doesn't mean we can't sign our free agents. We can. We just have to be smart about it and make sure that they actually fill spots that are needed and not just sign people just to sign them because, ooh, this guy has a lot of power. But where are you going to actually put him? Because if he's also a, say, center fielder and you have a center fielder, are you going to bench Jazz Chisholm for some guy that can have 65 power but has 40 contact? No, you're not. So make sure you're cognizant when you sign free agents or anything of that nature, and just make sure you have a spot for them. Don't just sign them because they're cheap enough to sign and they have a high power or a high contact, but then you don't really have a position for them because you have a better guy that's there, and perhaps the player you're trying to sign isn't as versatile. But anyway, saying that, as usual, first thing I did was I fired everybody except for my scouting director because I do like him. I recommend highly favors tools. Those kind of guys they're going to be the ones that give you the best reading on your scouts, on all your players that you scout, amateurs to major league players. And then I went out and got the best coaching I could for as much, that's what I spent money on, coaching. Player development. I spend $36 million. I believe that is the cap. Like anything more than $36 million, I don't think does anything. I think you're just throwing away money at that point. It looks like in the off season I could change this part here to $5.7 million, so we get a little more money for free agent signings, which is good. It gives us more chance to sign some top tier international prospects, and there's always good ones available. And we don't have a bad farm. Currently number 12 out of 30, so we're a little above average as far as that's concerned. I don't know if we have any stars quite yet. I haven't really checked through it greatly, but we do have some decent players. Staff roles, I purposely made sure I hired people that were capable of doing this, so at least my team could develop well. Again, when you're a small market team, you got to figure out a way to develop players and maximize their talent, or even squeeze more out of them than they thought they possibly had. And that helps if you have coaching. I think I have Bo Jackson. If this is like the actual Bo Jackson, like the Bo Jackson, could be, right? Because Bo Jackson this dude is 61. Bo isn't a young man. Is Bo from Alabama? I don't know. I didn't really look it up. I just saw that he was available and he was pretty good. But it's just funny that it's Bo Jackson. Like the first time I ever recognized the name in the coaching ranks. I thought they were always made up. And then there's Bo Jackson. So that was just funny for me. Let's take a look at the owner and what he expects of us. So again, even though these were issued in 2023, they were issued in November. That's when I joined the team in November after the World Series was over. And of course I got to reach these goals some of these I got to reach this year, despite the fact that they were just issued last year. So one of them, for example, is team record, play close to 500 ball. I think I built a team that should play close to 500 ball. It's not the greatest team. am missing some pieces because of injuries, but it's not a terrible team. Last year they were 58 and 104. I would like to think I could do better than 58 and 104, as that is extremely. Anytime you lose more than 100 games, you are really bad. So as you can see here, the Marlins have not had a ton of success over the last decade, really. And then in the shortened season, that's the only time they had a winning record, 31 and 29, and that season was shut down. So who knows what could have turned out if they actually finished the year. But yeah, so play close to 500 ball, and I think I built a team that should be close to 500 ball. Also, upgrade at shortstop. I don't think I'm going to upgrade at shortstop. I think, unfortunately, I am stuck with him. There was just no one available that I liked in free agency or the trade market or anywhere, really. And I'm not just going to sign somebody just to be... I like Gene, actually. So you know what? Let's see if we can improve team chemistry. I'll accept that. Actually, no, wait. Let me see something first. What's the other thing I gotta... Oh, that's fine, yeah. Improved team chemistry. I'll accept that. So, decline that. So I have a few years to increase attendance to 20,000 per game. As you can see, my money is... I don't have much available. I have 1.8 million available. I have 29 million available for extensions. Team focus is neutral. Market size small. Fan loyalty poor. The interest is 60. I've raised the interest just through free agent signings and maybe a couple of trades here and there. Raise the ticket prices a little bit here. So we're projected to get 24,000 a game. And he wants 20,000. So that I could reach that this year. So that'll be a nice goal. Just get something out of the way. It's very high, very important for him. Build my farm to top 6. Currently it's 15th. It was 23rd when I took over. So the few guys that we signed on the international market really helped boost my ranking. And I might have made a couple trades here and there to try to improve. Improve team chemistry. That should go up as they play together. Improve fan interest. Was 47, it's now at 60, so we've done a good job of handling that. This is really done with who you sign and how well you play. So if you're making good free agent signings and not trading away or releasing players that are, popular on your team that have been around for a while, your fans don't get too upset. And then, of course, to improve the amateur. That takes years because those guys are so far away from being... It's a good thing they said 2029 because it might be by then before anybody's actually able to help. And the long-term goal is to build a team and reach the playoffs, which I think is possible with drafting well and signing good international free agents. And then filling in any gaps I have with free agents without overspending. That's the goal, is not to overspend because we can't really overspend as he doesn't really allow me to overspend it. Even though he raised the budget, I had more money available. I don't know what happened to it. It just suddenly disappeared. I'm now back down to 1.8 million. I had it higher. I think I had it around 20 million. So I'm not really sure where this money went. This phantom money is now gone. So it's extremely odd that it just suddenly disappeared. Take a look at our salaries. See, I did trade for Jose Barrios, but I was able to get some of his salary retained by the team. So he's not too expensive. He's not really too expensive until 2027. That's an option year. I think it's a player option. Is it a player option or a team option? Is there? It might be a player option. Not really sure. I think it's a player option. But I might trade him in 2026 just to make sure we don't get into this 18. I don't want to have him for 18 million, and by then, I don't know if he'll even be that good of a starter. But at least we have him for a few years, relatively cheap. I mean, you're not going to get good starters for a cheap price. It's just not going to happen. I did win out. Tyler Hale's got a decent contract here. Again, like I said, you're not going to get good starters for a cheap price. We got him a couple years cheap here, and then A little more expensive toward the back part here, but that's okay. It's not egregious. Now, Sandy Alcantara, unfortunately, we might have to trade him this year. Whether or not I'm competing, I think it's not going to matter. I think I have to trade him. I just can't afford $17 million and then eventually $20 million. So I think he will have to be traded. Hopefully, we're doing well, and we can get some. So depending on how I'm doing, I'm either going to be trading him for somebody I have more control over, or trading him for pure prospects. So it really depends how we're doing come trade deadline. But he's definitely going to be gone. I can tell you that right now. Jorge Solar, he's a useful player for me. He's a DH. A little expensive to really not have much impact. So this is his final year for me. Or at least I'm letting him walk to free agency and see where we go from there. As there's my shortstop, Gene Segura. I'll keep him right now because again, the shortstop's it's a premium position, and if you can start at shortstop, there's no need to get rid of you. Then of course, Whit Merrifield, decent contract here, a good veteran for a decent amount of money. You're not going to sign good veterans for a cheap price. You're not going to get a veteran for $1 million, $2 million. You're going to have to pay up. Of course, we got a catcher. There's a catcher here. Again, not bad. So the salaries aren't bad. Now, after that, I don't really care too much. It's just these are the main salaries. So as you can see, we're not overspending on anybody. There's no $20 million contracts. There's not too many that are in double digits. If you look at our payroll, it's 90, 94, 117. It does get up to 124, but a lot of this will change once I get rid of the players because I'm not keeping most of these guys are going to be 124. So that number will definitely change. Because where is it? It was at 2027, 124 million, even 117. So really, I don't see that happening because I don't see Jose going to be. Sandy won't be with us. So you're looking at that right there is almost 40 million taken off. Who knows if Tyler will still be here by then? So yeah, that's definitely there's 40. 50, almost 55 million just right there alone. So that's probably not going to be there. Scouting, in case you're wondering, I did research to find out what the best, and this is according to someone, I can't remember the source I found on YouTube. That was his recommendation, and he's been playing this game a lot longer than I have. He recommended an 8, 20, 30, 42, and he also recommended a highly favors tools scout. And he said if you're doing that, a $4.5 million budget is more than enough to. Well, that's the minimum, so it's not like it's more than the best. That is the minimum, and that's enough to get an accurate read on everybody and not overspend, which is important when you're a small market team. So that's that. That's the front office part of it. Let's take a look. We're going to go over the pitching staff. That's what I always do. So it's going to be the opening day is always broken down into 3 videos. We're going to go over the pitching staff and front office in this one. Next video will be the lineups, and then the final video before I start playing games will be the top prospects, just to see who we have here, and how they're doing, and how I am personally micromanaging them to make sure that they develop correctly and aren't playing too high above their level or too low below their level, and try to keep them happy because they do get unhappy if they think they should be playing at a higher level. So you try to micromanage that part of it. I also recommend you micromanage your top prospects the way you feel, but it is something you should do, especially when it comes to the position, because sometimes the AI has them playing a position that they're not good at, and by the time they get up to your high A, your AAA, your AA and AAA, and then before they're ready for your major league roster, you want to put him at the position like at center field, or let's say you want to put him at right field. That's because that's what he's good at, but he's never played it because the AI kept sticking him in left field. And now you got this guy who should be at stud at right field, with no experience at it. He's got like 35 out of 65, but he should have been there from the get-go. So that's why I recommend micromanaging. And also make sure that they are playing a position, because sometimes you might have 2 stud prospects in the same on the same level, and only one of them is getting reps. So you got to make sure that maybe you got to call one up or send one down to make sure that they're both getting reps, or change one of their positions. because you want your stud prospects to be getting reps. That's the only way they're going to get better. Anyway, saying that, let's get into our pitching. Our number one pitcher and our ace is Sandy Alcantara. As you can see, he's really good. Currently a 4 stars, potentially to be a 4.5. I don't know if he'll get to 4.5, but that's because I'm not sure what's left to develop. Looks here like he's fully developed, so whatever is left to develop is underneath all this that we can't see. But he's an ace. He's a stud of all studs. But this will probably be the last year that I can afford him. So we will be trading him. Last year, kind of a down year. Really high in ERA, 4.61. WHIP was pretty darn high as well, 1.3. Home runs were high. Walk rate is okay. K rate, again, is I'm not expecting to strike out people. But he does need to lower the home run rate back to below 1. And maybe cut down on the walks just a tad bit. And he'll probably see his ERA dip back down to the 3s and the 2s where he was a much better player because he was a Cy Young in 2022. So if he can repeat this year again, obviously he'll be an All-Star / Cy Young nominated type of player. So not bad. He's an ace. You can clearly count him as an ace, as he's not a bad player. Just unfortunately we can't afford him. Our number 2 pitcher is Tyler Mahle. I did sign him out of free agency. So it's something that I am happy about. Again, I don't know why they're always angry. What are they angry about? Like, you're starting. I don't know what your problem is. You are starting. I really don't understand their problems. Why they're angry. But last year he played for Minnesota. I guess they let him go. Then he carried a pretty good year, 13-6, 3.35 ERA. Looks like he played some out of the bullpen as well. The WHIP is pretty darn good, 1.1. Anytime you get to 1.1s, 1.2 and below is pretty darn good. Just keep that in mind. Home run rate wasn't bad. Walk rate was fine. Strikeout rate was pretty darn good. So really, he had a good, solid season. So if I can get this again out of him, I'll be extremely pleased. Because he's not giving up a ton of runs. He's definitely striking out plenty. He's striking out plenty. He's walking what you would expect him to walk, and the home run rate is not egregious. So really, he's a solid number 2. I think an excellent signing. Got him for fairly cheap, I think, $10 million a year for a really solid pitcher. At number 3 is Jose Barrios. We traded with Toronto to get him. I can't even remember who we traded. It was somebody I didn't feel like I was going to have a good use. Who was it? Honestly, I can't remember who I traded. That's how unimportant that guy was. I don't even remember who it was. No. It was somebody with a high contract. But I can't remember who. Whoever it was had a pretty high contract. That's why I took Jose Barrios $17 million. But they did retain a lot of it, so I'm not paying him 17, 18, 18, and 24. As I did make sure that Toronto retained some of his salary, as I can't afford it. But with Toronto holding some of it, it's fine. Again, I think he's a solid pitcher. Really good, considering that we got him as our 3rd pitcher. It says a lot. And he was an All-Star, former All-Star. And he's not old. He's 29 years old. So it's not like these guys are old. We got 29, 29. These guys are in their prime. They either enter in their prime or they're in their prime. A little high in the ERA last year. Hopefully that will go down. Really, yeah, the WHIP is a little. Home run rate, I'd like to see that drop. But I don't know how low that will ever go because he doesn't have great movement. His walk rate was where it should be. Looks like that's career high or career low, however you want to look at it. So he's just getting up a little bit too many hits. That's his problem. Just a little too many hits. But this is just see this drop a little bit, we'll be okay. That's all. Just drop the hit rate. Our number 4 starter is Edward Cabrera. Young kid, still developing. Looks like he's going to turn out to be an average starter. Played for us last year. Finally got over 100 innings for the first time. Again, we want to see this lowered back to his rookie season. Something more like this is acceptable. Like that whip rate's acceptable. Home run rate's fine. Less than 1 with his movement is fabulous. Walk rate, he's always going to be a problem with walks. With his control being so low, he's definitely going to be a walk rate problem, and his movement is below average. He's a scary combination because he's going to put guys on base, and then he's going to allow a home run here or two, and it's probably going to happen at the most untimely moment, and it's going to piss you off. You're going to be up, 4-2, and he's going to put 2 men on and give up a home run to the third guy, and now you're down. That's the kind of pitcher he is. His strikeout rate, I'd like to see that go up a little bit more. I know this is his minor league strikeout rate, but I would like to see it reflect that because he does have good stuff. He's got good stuff. He should be striking out a little more. And he's always going to be walking high. He's always going to be a home run threat. In at number 4 is Simeon Woods Richardson. The AI traded for him last year. Looks like they traded right around the trade deadline too, July 30th. Really young kid, only 23 years old. 4 days of professional baseball under his belt, so not a lot of professional baseball, or not a lot of Major League Baseball under his belt. But I do like him. He's pretty much fully developed for a 23-year-old, which is really, really odd for a pitcher to be already pretty much done developing. Maybe his pitch can improve, but everything else is pretty much already like he is what he is. He's always a threat to be moved to the bullpen as a long reliever. He does have that kind of risk, especially if I have a healthy staff, or if I end up signing somebody, or if I have an opportunity to get a better pitcher, I will, and I can move him to the bullpen. He did have a little taste of Major League Baseball, 5 innings worth back in 2022, and then he hasn't seen the MLB since. In fact, he was a AA and AAA last year, and struggled at AA, did much better at AAA, but we'll see what he does for us this year as a full-time starter, albeit at number 5, so he's always borderline starting or going to the bullpen or possibly being sent down depending how he plays. Which my leash this year is going to be a little longer. I'm going to give guys more time to show if they need to be sent down or remain in the league. 1 month is not enough. I'll give them 2 months. Because in the past, I've been a little too quick with pulling them and sending them down without letting them at least try to play out of their funk. Let's head to the bullpen. Our closer is going to be Garrett Cleavinger. He was a Rule 5 pick from Tampa. I liked him a lot. I love the fact that he's got perfect grade stuff. His movement isn't atrocious. It's average. He's going to walk players, but I don't care as much because his stuff is so high. He's going to strike out majority of the guys he faces, or at least I expect him to strike out a ton of guys. But he was an excellent. Again, use your Rule 5 picks to your advantage. He's above average. I mean, look, he's a 3-star. Like, this was available for $700. Like, I was trying to sign guys like this out of free agency, and they wanted $14 million. So I'm saving $14 million. I think he's an excellent addition. Did play some for Tampa Bay last year. As you can see, he played really well. 32 innings worth, which is not the largest sample size, but he is a closer, or a reliever, so you're not going to have too big of a 44 games. That's actually a pretty good sample size. 44 games, really low ERA. His whip rate was That's elite level right there. .88. Did not give up too many home runs. Walked. Like I said, he's going to walk guys. But look at that strikeout rate. 15.5 per 9. That's his best since AAA days, which he should have been dominating hitters by then. But that is elite. He is an elite closer. This is what I expect, and for the bare minimum, I'm really happy. Our number one setup man and our backup closer is Max Meyer. He's really good and could potentially become a legit closer type pitcher. At one point, I think when Miami had him, they expected him to be a good starter, but he's slowly looking like a reliever. And I'm fine with that, because if his stuff can go up just a tick more, he definitely is a reliever, in my opinion. Definitely a setup closer type, because he's got pretty decent velocity. He's got the fastball slider combo to go with it. Doesn't have a third pitch. That's good. So that does say reliever a lot. When you don't have a good pitch mix, that tends to lead you to relieving, because guys are going to see your pitches, and once they see you twice, the first time going through the order one time is okay, but you don't want guys with a small pitch arsenal to be seen twice or three times, because by then they're going to become pretty hittable. But how did he do for us last year? Very small sample size. Excellent in AAA, although he was a starter down there with a 1 whip. Really good in AAA, actually. So I'm hoping he can, 6 innings is not enough to say whether he was good or bad. So that's why you're going to see an inflated ERA, a pretty high whip. Everything's going to seem off when you have such a small sample size. But he has potential to be a good setup man and get some saves this year as the number 2 closer. And our other setup man is going to be Steven Okert. He is, even though he's only 2 stars, I like him a lot because of his stuff. Not in love with the movement or the control. Both are below average, but his stuff is really good. Good enough to put him into the setup role. I couldn't really, like I said, I tried to sign some better players in free agency. They were just too expensive, or they wanted more money. I'm not going to get into a bidding war. Again, it's Miami, small market. I'm not getting to a bidding war. If you don't like my initial offer, that's it. I'll take it off the table. Good luck to you and whoever you sign with. But for $1.1 million, this is an excellent deal, and I can live with that. And he's playing. How did he play? It's not good. But when you had over 50 innings, again, that's the better sample size. So the year before, he was a much better player. Really good whip, home run rate. Again, his home run rate and walk rate is always going to be high, but the strikeout rate in the double digits is fine. I think he will be more like this, and that will be acceptable. Now for our middle reliever, my first option that I will be going to is Austin Roberts. That's this kid here, 25 years old, still developing. I do like him. He's even got. If he had more stamina, he could have been actually a decent starter. He just doesn't have enough stamina to be a starter. But I do like him a lot. He's going straight from AA up to the major league, to the majors. So he has never. So skipping AAA altogether, but I think he's ready. Because again, you're always seeing ratings, because you can see like he would have been in AA last year. Yeah, he's really good for AA. And even if I put him in AAA, he's already above average. So really, no point in wasting him. Let's put him in here. Let him start being a use to me, and he is. I think that's extremely useful. My first middle reliever out of the bullpen, and I try to use them in lower leverage type situations. How did he do last year in AA? It's a great whip, 3.61. ERA is not bad, 1.27. Home runs high. That's really high. Don't want to be giving up. Over 2 home runs per 9 is really bad. Walk rate's decent actually. Strikeouts are low. So the stats don't look amazing. So I'm hoping last year's stats is just that last year's. But if you look at his preseason or his spring training, he didn't look too bad in spring training. Only 1.46 ERA. These are the few spring training games that he did play in, so it doesn't look too bad. Only gave up a couple of runs here and there. So not really bad. A number 2 middle relief option is going to be Anthony Maldonado, 26 years old. I don't think he played any. Oh, he did play last year. 15 innings. Oh, decent. He's not bad. Again, our bullpen isn't the strongest, but it's not the worst. I think the guys will fit what I expect them to do. And they're affordable. Last year, in 15 innings worth of work, which is really small sample size, ERA is a little high there, but WHIP is fairly acceptable for a 2-star player. Didn't give up any home runs, so that's good. No home runs given up. Walk rate pretty high, considering that he does have decent control or average control. Strikeout rate is much better than his stuff suggests. I expect that to kind of all even out a little more. Spring training not looking bad. Finally did give up a home run though. Not looking bad in spring training, so hopefully you can carry that over to the actual season. And our last option out of the middle reliever is Anthony Bender, 29-year-old veteran, just good enough to be our third option. Didn't play much last year, only 19 innings, but looked solid across the board. Nothing amazing. Strikeout rate I would like to see go up. So the middle relievers, they're meh. Our first long relief option is going to be Dax Fulton. He's borderline starter. His expectation is bullpen, which is good. I'm glad that he expects to be in the bullpen this year. But it came down between him or Simeon Woods Richardson. I decided to go with Simeon instead and put Dax in the bullpen as my first long relief option. I am going with 2 long relievers. My setup is 2 long relievers, 3 middle relievers, and then 3 high leverage arms, with one of them being the closer, of course. But I like Dax, actually. I like him a lot. I do expect him to eventually become a full-time starter. But there's been plenty of pitchers in real life that started their careers out in the bullpen. I'm trying to think. I think Corbin Burnes. I believe he started off in the bullpen. So there's guys that start off in the bullpen and they work their way up. Sometimes you just have it loaded, or they're just not quite good enough yet. Don't be surprised if maybe by the end of the year or with injuries or whatever may happen that he ends up starting and staying there. But last year in 35 games, so really good. So he didn't even start last year, so wasn't a bullpen last year and is in a bullpen again this year. 57 innings, so he had a good sample size. ERA, but there was a rookie, so let's just see that drop a little. The whip rate should drop a little. Home run rate should improve. He's got good movement. He's got above average movement. Walk rate, he's always going to have a little trouble with his walks. But eventually that should go down to more in the 3s. And his K rate should rise as he gets better with his pitches and his stuff. He's still young. 22 years old is extremely young for a pitcher. They usually develop a little longer than a batter. And also they're more unpredictable as well. But he's got plenty of developing left. And he can get some reps in the bullpen. As you can see here, he actually did well in the spring training. The last 2 starts weren't too good. It raises ERA from 0.75 to 2.70, or 2.7. That's because he was giving up 2 runs and 3 runs. And then the last reliever is Jake Eder. He's also he could be a starter. So we have plenty of options available if some of our arms go down, which they did actually. He looks. Last year he played 17 games, pretty decent last year. Needs to go up a little. I won't be expecting much from him. because he's not really going to develop any more than he already is. But again, he's one of those guys. We have plenty of good pitching, I think, as far as long relievers, starters in case we need them. So really, the staff isn't terrible, especially the starting staff. With Sandy, Jose, and Tyler, I think that's a really solid 1, 2, and 3. All veterans now at this stage of their careers. And then you come up with a couple of the younger guys. You got Edward and Simeon, both much younger, 25 and 23. So the staff doesn't look bad. The bullpen, it's not an overwhelmingly great staff. I'm not going to tell you that it's great. Aside from Sandy, no one else is really great. It's just they're all good at what they're supposed to do, and hopefully it works out. At least that's the plan. I meant to go over the injury list. Fortunately, we did lose a couple of 3 starting pitchers. Ben Brown, he could be a starter. He's out for 2 more weeks. This is what hurts me the most. He's out for 15 more months. He just had another elbow surgery. He had actually regressed. So I'm not going to see him for over a year, which is crazy. He's just going to be hanging out on my IL. He's also got potential to be a starter. And then he's a pretty good reliever as well. So we got some guys that are injured for a while. Hopefully they'll come back and help us. So it's just the pitching. The bats are all healthy. Did lose some pitching, but they're not the top end of our pitching, which is fine, which is good. So for the most part, we are entering this season healthy. So that's it for this video. The next video will be going over my batting lineup.